Hello everybody, MaxMonty1516 here, back once again with a brand new Motorized review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Duck. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Earlier this year at 2025 Toy Fair, and Duck was announced to be one of the leading characters in this new Motorized range, I was overjoyed. Completely ecstatic. I mean, it's Duck. Who doesn't love Duck, right? I mean, Mattel seems like they're really kind of figuring that out lately, just because Duck, he appeared in All Engines Go, sorta. I mean, he like cameoed in the last movie, something I guess. And last year he also got the push-along model in the AEG style. And now we are back to getting CGI Duck toys once again for the first time in God knows how long. But I mean, really, I was just so happy to actually see Duck up there along with the front runners in the range. And this is awesome, I gotta say. Now, Duck is by far probably the most talked about model of this new range, purely for the fact that he just, exists. But also, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of interesting things to say about him. And, I'll start here at the front. And here's the face. So, I think Duck's face is awesome, personally. The only gripe I could give is that his eyes look a little bit too big. But they don't really bother me as much as it's bothered other people. I think the eye and eyebrow printing look very good. I like the nose and mouth shape a lot. He just looks very accurate to Duck. And also, I feel like pretty smartly, they have integrated the handrail piece over his face into the face mold. So you actually do still get that 3D handrail. And honestly, it looks pretty flush to me. Now, they are still molded on the side, however, there's printing on top of that, so they're not going to line up 100%, and that's a little bit bothersome, but I get why it happened. So, I mean, that doesn't really take much away from the model for me. And then, of course, it's the same on the other side. He has the black running board, as you can see there, and now for a pretty controversial part of Duck is the buffer beam. They're flat. He doesn't actually have, like, molded out buffers. I'll compare him to Thomas here, as you can see there. Thomas's buffers stick out like they should. Now, Duck does this because basically it's really weird. They wanted to give Duck his black running board, right? Well, they also wanted to give him a red buffer beam. So what happened is they just decided to mold the whole thing in black, and then they would just print the red on the front. But that means if they give him molded buffers, like Thomas has, they can't really just print around the buffers. So it was going to look weird either way. So you either get fully molded buffers or no red buffer beam, which I know is like a pick your poison sort of stance, really, because neither of them are ideal. But this is what we're dealing with Mattel and their UV printing nowadays. So honestly, I would take the red running board over the fully molded buffers. That's just me, though. He's got these little lines there. I don't really know what they're for on the sides of his face there. His sandboxes are nicely represented. And moving on to the side now, his GWR logo is present, and honestly, I feel like it's too small. But again, that's a problem with the CGI render itself. So they're just following that, I guess. Same thing goes with the number. I'm glad it's here, but obviously, it is way too small. It should be much larger than that. He's also got the 3D handrails still molded on the side of his cab door as well, and it is sunken in a little bit where the black is, as you can see, for his cab window. He's also got rivets. They look fine, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of the rivets in general, but, I mean, honestly, they're pretty small and muted here, so, they don't really detract from anything. They just go along the bottom of his tanks there, and then up the bottom and the side of the cab. He's also got handrails on his bunker as well, which is a nice touch. Speaking of the bunker, not a whole lot to say, really. He does have the coal load back there, which is the same part as the cab roof. Looks fine to me. And then also back here, you can see what I was talking about earlier with the buffer beam. He does have molded buffers on the rear, but they haven't printed anything. And again, like I mentioned, it would just be really hard to, with their current printing technology, to go around the buffers and print the red. So this is what Duck could have looked like in the front as well. And honestly, I do prefer the red because it's a nice splash of color. It also just kind of contrasts nicely with the switch. And while I do wish the switches stayed gray, I mean, it's honestly not that big of a deal. Duck is obviously a pretty good runner. I mean, he's been using the same chassis for since like 2014. I will talk about the new side rod mold as well. This is present on all of the new models. It looks pretty good to me. And one thing I'll mention about his wheels, if I remember to actually bring up a picture, Duck's render, or I guess sort of like last prototype model, actually did not have the holes in the wheels, as you can see here. And unfortunately, they are still here and present on the final. So that's a bit of a shame. I was really hoping that they were finally going to ditch the holes in the wheels, but alas, we have not gone that far yet. Other details to note, his splashers look pretty good. Those are nice and accurate in terms of shape and size, in my opinion. The front sticker on the cab is pretty weird to me because I don't really know how well this comes off on camera, but it really doesn't show up that well. I don't know, or I guess it doesn't really match the color super nicely. It looks way more of a cooler green, like almost like a cadmium green, versus this like sort of warmer olive green that Duck has. And I'll mention the color as well. I'm not huge on it. I mean, I still think it looks decent. I'll bring up Percy as a quick example here. He is a very different shade of green to Percy. So, you know, take it or leave it, I guess. It's one of those things where, like, I'm sure a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I'm kind of indifferent towards it, honestly. Could have been a little brighter for my liking, but it still looks fine. And then also, on the top there, I do really like his dome and safety valve being represented. His water tanks, or his caps, are there as well. And the funnel is here, and it's huge, even being taller than the cab. And this looks really weird to me, I can't lie. I know it's accurate, and I know a lot of the faults of this Duck model are just attributed to the CGI render. But I mean, I don't know. This funnel just looks way too tall for me. I mean, it also feels kind of flimsy. Like, not flimsy, I guess, but like, I don't know. I'd be scared to like put too much force on this or even drop it because I feel like it could break. It is a separately molded piece after all. And I don't know, this piece could come flying off if it hits the ground too hard or something. That's kind of my only, I guess, safety worry about this toy. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, if you're just like pressing on it normally, it's not going to come off or anything. It's still very sturdy. But I mean, like with a lot of force, I feel like that could come off pretty easily. At least easier than any of the other pieces on these toys. And other than that, there's not really too much else to say about Duck as a model itself. I still think he's pretty good, and I am overjoyed that he even exists, don't get me wrong. Again, like I said, just a lot of the flaws come from the CGI render, and they don't look great in toy form either, unfortunately. But, you know, this is kind of just what we're doing with the merch now. It's just basically like exact copies of the CGI renders, or at least as close as they can get with their limitations. But yeah, overall though, I still am very positive feeling about Duck. I would say he is my third favorite model of this new range, and I'd say he goes right behind Thomas and Percy, who I think are a little bit better than Duck, and I'll get to why in those reviews when they eventually come out. But yeah, Duck I wanted to cover as one of the first engines because, you know, it's Duck. Everybody loves Duck, and I feel like he is just one of the engines I wanted to talk about most. So also I should mention, Duck is not yet available in the United States. I had to import him from the UK. I don't know when Duck is going to be available in the US at all, because it doesn't seem like he's even in Wave 1 of the US cases. Those are just Thomas, Percy, and Nia. So who knows when Duck is going to reach here. The single packs in the US are just barely stocked anyway, outside of like the Out with Thomas's right now. So if you want Duck and you're not in the UK or anywhere near that, it's going to be quite a pretty penny to get him, unfortunately. And I did overpay for this, I'll admit. But he's here in the end, and I'm glad I'm here to talk about him now. And also, I will quickly mention the truck. There's not a whole lot to say here, really. It's just a truck. But like I said, I've talked about the new chassis before already. I think they look good. And I like that Duck has a red truck specifically, because I think the red contrasts very nicely with his green. But yeah, other than that, you know, I kind of wish it had some cargo, but they're never going to include cargo in single packs, so, you know, they haven't been doing that in God knows how long. But anyway, yeah, Duck is really nice, and before I go, let's do a quick comparison. So unlike most other engines, Duck really only has one model that I can compare him with, and here is my Trackmaster Duck. So obviously mine is from my series. It's been a little bit modified over the years, but obviously this is an extremely classic Duck toy. Most people are going to own this already. It's still very iconic to me. And honestly, comparing them, there are so many differences. Obviously, like I've added the lamp here for my series and everything, and I've had to repaint his front buffer beam a couple times because it keeps getting scuffed up. But yeah, their faces honestly aren't too different. I do kind of wish the new one had more defined cheekbones though, as the old one does, in my opinion. Looks interesting to say the least. And I'm not really sure why they kind of smoothed that out, since Duck's cheekbones are very integral to his facial design. But there is a huge difference here in the scale, once again. Just looking at, as Duck rolls away, just looking at the cab shapes and everything, and their sizes for sure, as well as the funnels. I mean, Jesus, what a difference there. But yeah, moving on, just around, there's honestly not a ton to say, because, I mean, I feel like they're overall kind of close, but, you know, everything is just kind of squashed down in comparison on the old Duck. I don't know. Obviously, this is very much more in Tomy scale. It's meant to work with the Tomy risers and everything. And the Trackmaster 4 version, or the motorized version, or whatever, really isn't kind of conforming to those anymore. So they do have the freedom to make them taller. Just, it's honestly just kind of hard to compare these in general because they're such different fundamental toys that, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure most people are going to say they prefer the Tomy one, and I do too, because obviously, you know, it looks way better, just in my opinion, because it's just more classic, I guess, and you can't really go wrong with that. But also, I feel like the new one is just a little bit too stretched out height-wise. The funnel and cab are just a little bit too tall for me, and that's not saying the original one isn't too short, because it definitely is, I feel like. The cab's a little bit too low to the ground. I feel like we don't really have a happy medium with Duck, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's just honestly really kind of crazy to see these comparisons and how different the toy design has come, because without like the Trackmaster 2 one to compare with, it's really way more drastic, I feel like. Because this is the first new motorized Duck toy we've had since this one was discontinued around 2014-ish. But yeah, I'll show you guys a couple more angles. So there's the front, and here is the back as well. Notice this one does have the red on the back, but this one doesn't. You know, that's kind of a disappointment. But, and then of course we will look at the sides again, if I can kind of get them both in frame like so. I think it's a pretty good frame of reference there. But yeah, I see, look how large the 8 and the GWR logo are on the old one versus the new one. It just looks a lot nicer, and even though my sticker's a little bit sun-faded, you can still see. That's one thing I'll give to the new toys, is that more things are printed on versus being stickers, and that's a huge plus in my opinion. But yeah, I also do like that all of his handrails are now actually picked out in silver, versus just not being painted at all on the old one. So there are some definite improvements here. Granted, I still don't think it's a fundamentally better toy than the Tomy one, but still, it is not bad by any means. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Duck. I'm not going to stretch this one out. I don't really have anything else to add to the conversation. But yeah, I'm still very happy to have this. I'm really glad it even exists. And I really hope that this thing makes it to the United States at some point relatively soon. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to that running session.